Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. And you know what time it is. If you don't know, you better ask somebody. It's time for that community activist, that one that does the work almost 18 hours a day and take a break for lunch. So she's doing 19 hours worth of work and getting 6 hours worth of sleep. But I forgot to add in the driving. So we can calculate that she gets 2 hours of sleep. Ladies and gentlemen, the community activist, the one and only Miss Georgia Allen.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. And I'm excited. We've had a marvelous last couple of weeks. We've been busy fighting for justice for everyone. People think we only fight for Black people or what have you. But when we're out on the battlefield, we're fighting for justice. And that can affect anybody and everybody. And so just because we don't call your name out or your group out, that does not mean that we're not fighting so that everybody will have fairness and equity. And with that being said, I am Georgia F. Allen with GA for Justice, and I come to you every single Thursday at 12 o'clock noon. And today's topic is vote. Justice, justice, justice. Our KWANZAA principle today is KUJICHAGULIA, which is self-determination, to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves, and do not allow others to define us or speak for us. That is a very important principle because with everything that's going on with DEI and all these different buzzwords and everything, we know that we must be in charge of ourselves and not allow other people to try to manipulate us and move us in directions that's not favorable to our community. Our faith message, and keep KUJICHAGULIA up there. Keep it up there for a little while. Our faith message today is from Isaiah 61:8. For I, the Lord, love justice. I hate robbery and wrong. I will faithfully give them their recompense, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. Keep that in mind as I go through this topic today and go through this subject matter, because when we're talking about justice, we also have to have a strong dislike for persons who are greedy and who do wrong and are willing to rob people of what belongs to them so that they can enrich themselves. So keep that scripture in mind. For I, the Lord, love justice. I hate robbery and wrong. Keep that in mind. Again, greetings. Yes, it's Thursday, and I am Georgia F. Allen with GA for Justice. As always, I want to first and foremost thank Mr. Henderson Vaughn, a.k.a. Captain 85, a.k.a. the Dream Maker, on the one and only WVDM. And he has opened up the airwaves to bring our listening audience a conversation, a simple conversation for information, a conversation for correction when necessary, as well as a conversation for transformation. My disclaimer each and every week, as many of you are well aware that I have worked in civil rights and have been a community activist for decades. Therefore, the various positions that I take are mine and mine alone. I do not speak on behalf of any groups or any organizations. Amen. All right. You can pull it down now. Okay. To my listening audience today, are you excited? Those of you who are living in Virginia Beach, are you excited about the Virginia Beach NAACP and their fight for justice? Are you excited? Because I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm excited to see all the communities coming together on one accord to fight for we the people. We're not fighting for one group or that group or this group or the other group. We're fighting for we the people because we are a very diverse group of people, and many of us have very similar issues or sometimes the same issues. So on Monday, April the 14th, 2025, we heard from the voices of the people at the NAACP town hall meeting, and they were speaking about DEI in that resolution that some of the school board members decided to do in the back room and bring it out in the midnight hour. send it over to other school board members at 10 o'clock at night for them to talk about it the next day at 6 p.m. in the afternoon. Now, they did that last week. So the NAACP called for a town hall. And of course, they reached out to the school superintendent. They reached out to other school board members. And given the fact that it is Holy Week, it's also spring break, many of them were not able to attend. So we're not throwing anybody under the bus. But what the NAACP did is said, look, people have a right to address their concern. And we have a responsibility, the NAACP has a responsibility to give the community a forum, a place for them to address their concerns. And that is what took place on Monday, the 14th. The NAACP invited in Dr. Fetterman. Dr. Fetterman is the head of education for the Virginia State Conference of the NAACP. So he came with a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of understanding about DEI, and also the letter that they keep forgetting to put up there. Intentionally, on purpose, we don't, but it's actually DEIA, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. That's critically important, because if you have a child who is wheelchair bound, they need to have accessibility. They need to still be able to get to school every day. They still need to be able to, in their own particular way, participate in some of the many activities that take place in their school environment. And so we had many teachers, many people from families, students out so that they could voice their concerns with regards to the importance of DEIA. Now, that resolution was passed last week. However, next week, there will be another opportunity for people to come out and speak before the school board itself, because there wasn't a whole lot of time last week. The community found out, and guess what? These people decide they're going to pass something and not even bother to have public input. Now, come on. This is what goes on in an environment where we have someone sitting in public housing in Washington, D.C., because it is public housing. The taxpayer pays. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you, Michelle. It is public housing. See, he talks negatively about folks who don't have a lot of money and have to live in public housing temporarily while they are able to build up income and be able to move in a new place. I live temporarily in what they call subsidized housing, but as at the end, I think I lived there 3 years. When I got ready to move out, I bought a home, okay? Because I was one of these people that believe that even though you might be down temporarily, you are definitely not out unless you call yourself out, okay? Nobody else can call you out but you. You're the one that determines whether you are down and out or just simply down for a temporary period of time. And I was down for a temporary period of time, which allowed me to go to the Northern Virginia area and buy a home up there. And so when you hear me talking about subsidized housing or public housing, don't take it as a negative, because I understand someone heard it and they said, well, I know people that lived in public housing. Public housing for the masses or for persons who are struggling, that is not a negative. Generally speaking, in many instances, it's a temporary situation. But public housing for the dude that lives in the White House, that's also our tax dollars. And when he talks about other people taking advantage, all those trips down to Florida, you living in public housing, don't have to pay. And then when you fly down to Florida on Air Force One, you don't have to pay. Who's milking the government? Because I don't know anybody that live in regular public housing that don't have to pay. Now I've digressed just a little bit, so I'm going to come back to DEI. But I wanted to make that point, because when you're listening to me, remember, I'm never disparaging anybody who struggles and have to deal with certain situations. I am never doing that. Never. With that being said, we have a school board meeting that's coming up, and we want people to come out and support the school board members who are fighting for them. Understand, go back and watch some of the votes that are being taken by your school board members and ask yourself, is that in my best interest, or is it in the best interest of others? Because if you have members of the school board or the city council and they're voting against your best interest, form your posse. Get that group together and send letters, send emails, make phone calls, send text messages, do whatever it takes to let these people know that, no, this is not acceptable. Yeah. Okay. And so, we want people to know to go to the school board meeting. Now, also on Tuesday night, the community came out in full force to voice their concerns regarding the 10-1 election system. They came out in full force to the city council meeting. As a matter of fact, Mr. Henderson Vaughn also spoke about the 10-1 voting system, because our city council thinks that it's okay for them to change a system just because they don't like it. We've been trying to change the system since the 1990s because it was so horrific. It was such a horrible voting system. And we went before the General Assembly. We passed a referendum that said, yes, we want to change the voting system. And the General Assembly crew from Virginia Beach, they said, oh, well, they don't understand what they're doing. Let's rewrite the referendum and put it back on the ballot. Hello there. How you doing? Good to see you. Let's put it back on the ballot. And so they did. And guess what? The people voted against what they had originally voted for. Well, all of a sudden, the city of Virginia Beach thought that was just great to implement the one that they wanted, but weren't overly anxious to implement the referendum that the people originally voted for and what the people wanted. So I want you to understand that clearly. The people originally voted to change the voting system back in the 1990s. So when you heard all those people go and say, well, you know, our the Commonwealth charter says this, and our city charter says this, or our city charter says that. Keep in mind, the only reason why the city charter says the system that is there is because they never allowed the people to really have a true voice. So once they got sued and the federal judge said, you got an illegal voting system, you must change it. And he was very clear. He was very specific. You must change the voting system. They changed it. They codified it when they voted 10-1, saying we accept the new 10-1 voting system. So the people came out because they now want to change it again. That's why the people came out. They came out because people now know who their city council member is. And guess what? They can now hold them accountable. See, they were hiding in the dark when their districts were so huge, when their district was over 60,000 people, and their districts were so huge, and they were running in a citywide race. They could hide, you know, with some of the other people in the city of Virginia Beach versus addressing the needs and the concerns of the district for which they were supposed to represent, because they were using an at-large system, which was a hybrid system, saying 7 people need to live in the district, but guess what? Everybody in the city can vote for them at large. Now, what kind of sense does that make? What kind of sense does that make? So now that the lawsuit was won, and now that they have to run in their specified district, which is only about 48,000 people, and now guess what? Those people in that district get to know who they are. Those people in that district can form a coalition like that and say, you know what? This person isn't doing what we need them to do. So let's get rid of them. Let's get them out of there. Okay. They don't like that because now people can hold them accountable. Before, if the people in their district didn't like them, they could say, oh, well, I'm just going to go to these other people in these other districts that I know that I've done special favors for and pool them all together and let them outvote what my district says. So my district could say, I don't want you. But then they could go to the rest of the city and get the rest of the city to say, oh, well, I see you on TV. I think you're an okay person. I like you. I've heard you talk a few times, but they don't really know them because that's not their district representative. So with the city council meeting on Tuesday night, we had a very, very good turnout that will allow people to voice their concerns and also push back against the city of Virginia Beach trying to put a new referendum on the ballot in November that will be unjust to try to get people to vote against what they have already voted for. They voted and were surveyed and called and sent emails and spoke out, and 81% of the people that were surveyed said, I prefer the 10-1 district voting system. That's what they said. It's on paper. UVA did the study. And the last I checked, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, they called UVA kind of like the Holy Grail. Am I right?
Yeah.
They consider them almost like the Holy Grail. Oh, well, UVA said it. Okay, so they brought in UVA Weldon Cooper Center and had them to speak to the people. And then once they came back, and the Weldon Cooper said, yeah, we've sent them a written survey. We've had them come before us in public forums to speak. We've allowed them to go online and do Zoom and everything. And these people from all over all say they prefer the 10-1 voting system. That's just. That's what justice looked like when people come together and they get the questions, they answer the questions and say, this is what we prefer. That's what justice looked like. Okay. It doesn't look like somebody that turns around and said, well, it didn't turn out like I wanted. They didn't answer the questions the way I wanted them to. And so therefore, that's no good. That's no good. So what we're going to have to do is continue to keep the pressure on. So since I'm going to talk about justice, I figured let me kind of give you an explanation or definition of what AI, because now all you got to do is Google everything and you got all this AI coming up there, artificial intelligence telling us everything. Okay, it tells us everything now. So it says justice at its core is the concept of moral rightness, okay, and fairness, encompassing how individuals and society are treated. It involves ensuring that everyone is treated equally, that the law is applied consistently, and that consequences for actions are appropriate and deserved. So you don't go off in some wild tangent giving one person one type of justice and somebody else another type, okay? It's appropriate and it's deserved. This includes both legal and moral dimensions, addressing issues like fairness in the legal system, the equitable distributions of resources, and the restoration of relationships after wrongdoing. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? If you do wrong, you pay a recompense. So if I stole $1,000 from my neighbor, they could put me in jail forever, But wouldn't a more fair justice be for me to pay them the $1,000 back? So the plate is clean. And hopefully I learned something. Now, there's another part of that that could be added. It's some type of public service. Maybe I would be responsible for working an American Cancer event. Or maybe I was responsible for going to a home for seniors. And my job, my volunteer service or my recompense for wrongdoing would be for me to give back to my own community, to the society that I'm a part of. Sounds pretty simple to me. So there are 5 parts of justice, and I'm going to try to get through all of them. I don't know if I will be, because there's a lot going on here in Virginia Beach. Again, the DEI resolution on the table, the 10-1 voting system on the table. And then, of course, as always, there's incidents that's taking place around the city that also needs to be addressed. And we don't leave those things hiding in a vacuum somewhere. Those are things that will be addressed as well, I'm sure. So these are the 5 things. And again, I may not be able to get to all of them in detail. But justice says, 1, there should be fairness and impartiality. 2, there should be a moral rightness. 3, legal and systemic aspects to justice. 4, distribution and equity. And 5, there should be restorative justice. Why are all these so important? Well, when we look at fairness and impartiality, if justice requires that people be treated fairly and impartially, regardless of their background, status, or other characteristics, this means the law should be applied equally to all, not to some, but to all, and that everyone has an equal opportunity to receive a fair trial. So that's fairness and impartiality. Moral rightness. Justice is also rooted in the idea of moral rightness, suggesting that actions should be just and that individuals should receive what they deserve. Not more than they deserve, not less than they deserve. Fairness. This includes holding individuals accountable for their actions and ensuring that those who have been harmed receive redress. It's called accountability. You hold them accountable and you make sure that if someone lost something because of your misdoings, that they are fairly recompensed for that. Fairly recompensed. Then 3 is legal and systematic aspects. Justice is also manifested in the legal system. I think I have something on my shirt called litigation. Okay. Which is designed to ensure that the law is applied fairly and consistently. Can't be all over the place, so it should not be. This involves fair trials, due process, and appropriate punishments for crimes. What does that mean? If not done fairly, we might have to file litigation, because that might be our only recourse. Okay? If we're in a situation where we're being mistreated in this society, in this system, and we want justice, sometimes you got to go through litigation to get your justice. And sometimes even after you go through litigation and the jury decides and you feel like it's not done appropriately, that's when you get to appeal. You appeal what you feel is unjust. So litigation should be a process, but it should be a fair process. Am I correct?
Yep.
Does this make sense?
Of course.
All right. Today is justice, justice, justice. And I chose that because there is so much stuff going on in the city of Virginia Beach. And I just want people to know that we're still keeping our ear to the ground. We're still listening. And we want to make sure that you know that people hear you. And wherever possible, we want to make sure that we get your information out to others to make sure that there's an opportunity to turn some of these things around. But there's one important thing. You too have to be engaged. Maybe you can't go to city council meetings because your work schedule will not permit. Maybe you can't go to school board meetings, city council meetings, afternoon sessions, and things of that nature. But guess what you can do? You can send emails. You can make phone calls. You can tell your friends and relatives who also are not in a position where they can go to live meetings to do that. You can also watch some of the meetings and you can take notes. And sometimes those of us who are fighting for justice, we can't keep up with everything. It's almost like we're standing here and we don't have a plain old home water hose. We got a fire hose that they're using to put out fires at homes. And that's how it's coming at us. It's coming at us like a fire hose, not just a teeny tiny water hose. So keep in mind that even when you do have people in your community trying their best to fight on your behalf, they alone cannot get all of this done. And with that being said, I think it's about time for announcements, acknowledgments, and commemorations. Okay, let's talk about Mildred Faye Jefferson, born April the 4th, 1926, passed away October the 15th, 2010. She was the first Black woman to graduate from Harvard Medical School. Billie Holiday, born April 7, 1950, passed away July 17th, 1959. She rose to stardom in the 1930s, famously known for the song Strange Fruit. There was a issue, the United States v. Billie Holiday was a targeted effort because of her outspoken views and her controversial song, Strange Fruit, which talked about all the people who were being lynched, and they didn't like it. So they called it the United States v. Billie Holiday. A. Philip Randolph, born April 15th, 1889. He was a labor leader and civil rights activist. Paul Robeson, born April 9th, 1898. Multi-talented artist and an activist. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, born April the 16th, alive and well and still got a hook shot. Marvin Gaye. I'll probably talk about Marvin Gaye all the time because I love Marvin Gaye. And although he was born April the 2nd, I still love Marvin Gaye. And then also in memoriam is Dr. King, assassinated April 4th, 1968. Let's not ever forget Dr. King and all the things that he did on behalf of all of us. Announcement. This week is Holy Week in Virginia Beach. And if you're interested in attending, it is at Ebenezer Baptist Church. I think it's 865 Baker Road. The praise and worship starts at 6:45 p.m. and the worship service itself starts at 7 p.m. It is hosted by the Virginia Beach Interdenominational Ministers Conference. All are welcome. Tonight will be Reverend Francine Humphreys will be giving the message. And then on Friday night, tomorrow night at 7 p.m., there will be 7 ministers speaking on the last 7 words of Jesus. And then on Sunday will be Resurrection Sunday at 6 a.m. There will be a sunrise service at New Hope Baptist Church at 395 Old Great Neck Road. So if you don't have plans and you are saying, you know what, I really would like to go to church. You got two more days this week, tonight and tomorrow night. And you also have Sunday morning if you so desire. But we always want to make sure that those who have a strong faith and maybe their church is not holding any type of Holy Week service, there's an option for you. Now, next week is the school board meeting. And the school board meeting will be at 6 p.m. and they're going to be looking at public input with regards to DEI, the DEI resolution. We need your voices there. We need you to speak out and speak up. And then that flyer that you have Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025 is all right. Join us for a community meeting next Wednesday. It's talking about the Tri-Campus. Our district representative is Dr. Elvita Green. She's the school board rep, and she needs you there to give your input with regards to the two options. And it's going to be held at Newtown Elementary School in the Learning Circle. It's called Learning Circle, and it's over by the Williams Farm Recreation Center. Please, if you live in District 4 and you are concerned about what happens to our children and how they are treated, you definitely want to come out to the District 4 School Board Community Meeting. And that is next week, Wednesday, April the 23rd. The school board regular meeting is Tuesday, April the 22nd. So we want to encourage you about these events that are taking place in Virginia Beach that impact you and your children. Okay. Whew, that's a whole lot, isn't it? Got a lot going on in Virginia Beach. Okay, we're going to get back to the justice. I said there was 5. I think I'm gonna be able to get the last 2 in. The number 4 is distribution and equity. Justice extends to the equitable distribution of resources and opportunities within a society. This includes concepts like environmental justice, where everyone has a right to a healthy environment regardless of their background. So I want to say, would you please stop taking resources from the needy and giving them to the greedy? Because that is basically what it boils down to. The resources are there. It's just how they're distributed. If you see the description is justice extends to the equitable distribution of resources. And equitable distribution of opportunities within a society. So for those of you who are listening today about justice, this message is important because we need you to speak out. You know your community. I went to the Holy Week service last night, and we parked across the street from the church because the church parking lot was overflowing. And when I came out, of course, it was dark. When I went in, it was daylight. When I came out, it was dark. And I looked and I saw a street light. No lights on the street light. None. Whereas if the lights were on, the parking lot would have been well lit and everything, but the lights weren't on. And I wanted to speak to that because it would remind me that I need to call them and let them know that you need to get that light fixed. Okay. And those are the type of things as individuals, as community people, that you can do. Pick up the phone, call them. I'm also going to call the person who is the head of the Civic League and let them know as well, because we want to make sure that we're not stepping on anybody's toes, or we don't think we're more important than someone else. We want to work in concert with each other and not try to, go over someone. But maybe they didn't notice. And if they didn't, let's make them aware that it's there and ask him, do you want to call them or do you want me to call them? Because we could each call. The last one is restorative justice. Justice can also involve efforts to restore relationships and heal from harm. This might involve restorative justice initiatives that aim to address the harm caused by wrongdoing and help repair relationships. That sounds like DEI to me. Y'all cause harm. So with DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion, and we're working together, guess what? We can start repairing some of these relationships, because if we don't, we're going to have a real mess on our hands. And it also sounds like reparations. If we broke something, we need to repair what we broke. And when you mistreat people, when you kidnap people, when you terrorize people, when you take their land from them, when you destroy what they built, you have to repair that relationship. Or you should have to repair that relationship. And you shouldn't be offended when the people who have been harmed require you to repair the relationship. Am I right?
That's right.
Reparations. If you broke it, repair it. That sounds pretty simple. What do you think? Sounds pretty simple to you?
Yes, it does.
All right. Let's see. I'm coming close to the closing of the show. Got a little while to go. But when I was looking at justice and I was watching what was taking place in Virginia Beach, I was watching the mistreatment of children at Kellam High School, watching how people are treated when they are invited to come and they're told that you have to respond by a certain period of time. And the event takes place, they need 3 days notice. The event is taking place toward the end of the week and you've given them notice at the beginning of the week. It sounds like you probably got 3 days notice. At least, if not more. And so you have to ask yourself, is that justice? Is the mistreatment of others justice? And how you craft it, no matter how you weave your slogans, it's still injustice. It's not justice. It's not justice. And what I'm seeing is behaviors come along with the injustice. All types of behaviors. There's reactionary behaviors from those who receive the injustice, and there are actions and behaviors because some folks think that they should have more justice than everybody else. And that is not the case. And so I'm going to conclude with this person in Wisconsin. Okay. Let me finish up the restorative justice and the final sentence on justice. And this is what it says. When you look it up and it pulls up all this information, it says, in essence, justice is about striving for a fair and just society where everyone is treated with respect, where the law is applied impartially, and where individuals and communities are able to thrive and heal. And see, those two words are very important. There's some healing that has to take place in these United States of America because you harm people, you hurt people, you cause pain. You broke something that needs to be repaired. And now all of these people, they're not thriving the way they should. So therefore, you aren't either. You're not thriving either. You think you are, but you're always afraid. You're afraid of losing something that shouldn't even belong to you in the first place. Okay? Because if you stole something, it's not yours. You're using something that belongs to somebody else. So, of course, you're uncomfortable. Thieves are always uncomfortable because they're afraid that they're going to get caught. And so what you're seeing coming out with the DEI and all the things that are coming out is now the truth is coming and boiling to the top, and it's coming to the surface. And all these people that have told their children these lies for all these years about who did what and how this was done and how that was done, And guess what? Their kids have access to computers, and guess what? They go online and they ask the question. And none of the stuff that their family members have told them comes up as any form of truth whatsoever. And so now the parents are having to explain that which is unexplainable when you mistreat others. It's unexplainable. So with that, I'm coming to my close. And I'm going to talk about an article that was on the BBC. It was done around the 13th of the month. It said a high school student from Wisconsin who killed his parents as part of a larger plot to assassinate the White House occupant. He also considered assassinating the vice to the occupant of the White House. The objective was to create a race war, a possible race war. Then the FBI said a newly unsealed search warrant also alleges that the suspect's phone contained material relating to a neo-Nazi group called the Order of Nine Angels and praise for Adolf Hitler. Now, who else praises dictators? Is there anybody that we might know? In the writings was found by the investigator, the suspect expressed white supremacist beliefs and called for DT's assassination to start a political revolution. That's what they found in the documents. The court documents allege the suspect was speaking with people in Russia, another known dictator, about plans to kill his parents. Authorities said the teenager paid for a drone and explosive to use in an attack and had plans to escape to Ukraine. Now he's going to talk to Russia, the dictator, but then he want to find safety and security in Ukraine. Imagine that. He was in touch with other parties about his plan to kill the occupant of the White House and overthrow the government of the United States. So the investigators wrote. So when you hear this from this teenager, high school student, okay, part of the neo-Nazis, have a group called the Order of Nine Angels, Anglos, praises Adolf Hitler. And then you hear school boards saying they don't want DEI. They don't want DEIA because they don't want diversity, equity, and inclusion. But you got this, and I would say lone wolf, but based upon the information under the warrant, he was in touch with a number of people. So he wasn't a lone wolf. He wasn't operating by himself, but he was operating with the mindset that has been given to him because there's a society that says we don't want people to get along. We want one group to think they're better than the other. So we want them enraged and angered. We want them to create chaos and confusion. And we definitely do not want justice. So when I read that, I said, now, ain't this a hot mess? Our school board intentionally decided to vote on an issue that they knew in advance they had an extension and that they had time to give the public an opportunity to voice their concerns or voice that they were in favor of changes. But they didn't do that. They basically did this similar to what this young man did. They just did it on paper. This young man killed his mother, his stepdad, stole $14,000 because he was going to put this money together along with, I guess, these folks that he was working with, the neo-Nazi groups, and the Order of the Nine. It said Angles. I thought it was angels at first, but then I looked again. And so they're going to decide that we're going to create chaos. Now, when you're looking at this person, you think that this person might like that guy in the White House, but he's indispensable because of what his objective is. His objective is to create chaos. His objective to create a race war. So if I decide that I'm going to get rid of the dude in the White House, I'm justified in doing that. That's what it sounds like to me on paper. Now, I don't know how it sounds to other people, but it sounds like he wants to create his own justice. So he's okay with killing people, even down to his mother and his stepfather, and willing to put together a mechanism to take out the dude in the White House, to take out the vice to the dude in the White House. This is serious business, people. Now, I know I sound a little tongue-in-cheek as I'm talking with you today, but this is serious business. Because just like there's this young man in Wisconsin, there's probably somebody in Virginia. What do you think?
Yeah.
Probably somebody in North Carolina, somebody in Texas and Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, South Carolina, not to mention all the I's, Idaho, Illinois, Iowa, the North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska. So I would caution these people who sit on in positions around our cities, in our state legislatures, be careful what you support, because this 17-year-old, I don't think this was a 30-minute decision. I think this was ongoing information that he was finding and hearing and being fed for a period of time. I don't think it was a 30-minute. I think it was a combination of all the noise that he has been hearing for a minute now. Who's the bad guy? We need to get rid of these people. We don't want these people here. We want a nation where all the people are European. This is what this young man, young student, I don't want to even call him a man, this young student was probably, and I don't know him, he's all the way from Wisconsin, but I find it very difficult to believe that he was taught to be fair and impartial. I find it difficult to believe that he was taught morals and rightness. I find it extremely difficult to believe that he was taught anything about a Lord that loves justice. I find it difficult to believe that he could kill his mother and stepfather and not hate wrongdoing. I find it difficult to believe that he doesn't understand that he needs to be held accountable. But you know, he probably think that he should be like the little Rittenhauer, Rockenhauer, or whatever the kid's name was, that went in a crowd and decided to shoot up some people who were peacefully marching. He probably feels that, like that guy who was also a teenager, could go in and shoot people, Jewish people. As a matter of fact, this gentleman, this student, also there was, I didn't pull it all, but somewhere in it, it said that he wanted to get rid of Jewish people. Kind of like Kyle Rittenhauser. I think that's his name, Kyle Rittenhauser.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to ask yourself, at no point in time did the family members talk to him about morals, about fairness, about justice, about impartiality. At no point in time about equity. At no point in time. And so as we're looking at what justice look like and what justice should look like, I want us to understand that if ever there was a time that we need to come together as communities, I think we better be looking at that right now, because those folks that are sitting on school board that think that this is not going to happen to them, that their kids are just fine and might not do anything like this, what are you teaching them? What are you teaching them? Because I'm sure persons who've lost their children from suicide or from drug overdose probably didn't think they were going to lose their kids either. So I caution folks in position to make policy. I caution you to be very careful, especially if you have children, or especially if you have neighbors that have children, because guess what? Jeffrey Dahmer, he was taking people. And in order for him to get here, he had to have a mother and a father. Am I correct?
That's right.
So where did he come from that he thought it was okay not only to take people off the street, but to cook them and eat them too? Where did that come from? Had to come from somewhere. But anyway, in conclusion, we do want justice. When you hear something like this particular issue that I spoke to you about and the issues with regards to DEI, you can better understand why truth is so important, why teaching accurate information regarding the U.S. history is also so important. When we teach hate, this is the type of return we receive on that investment of hatred. We engender a mindset that is divisive, and we give rise to a society that can be easily destroyed. Thank you. I am Georgia F. Allen with GA for Justice. I come to you each and every week, every noonday on Thursday, to share a conversation with all of you. Thank you for listening.
Once again, a great topic and very informative, because that's what we need to try to understand what the city of Virginia Beach is trying to do to our future generation. But once again, thank you for your research and all your effort you do in the community. If nobody never say, we appreciate you over here.
Thank you.
Once again, another great topic by the one and only community activist, GA for Justice, Miss Georgia Allen. Join her next Thursday, same time, same place, right here on WVDM, GA for Justice by Miss Georgia Allen. Until then, y'all have a wonderful evening. But most of all, please share this information with people on your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you can also email them. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.